Funding for this program is made possible by listeners like you and the following sponsors.
All right, Atlanta, Georgia, are you ready? Let's bring them out all the way from Jacksonville, Florida. Alligator recording artist J.J. Gray and Mo Crow.
AEG presents J.J. Gray and Mofro live at the Eastern on March 8th, along with Cedric Burnside. J.J. Gray is well known to roots music lovers and typically sells out his shows at some of the largest venues and music festivals in the world. Olusty, his upcoming Alligator Records release, drops on February 23rd. And Gray is back, singing his personal stories with universal themes of redemption and rebirth. Once again, J.J. Gray and Mofro, along with Cedric Burnside, perform on Friday, March 8th at the Eastern, located at 800 Old Flat Shoals Road Southeast, Atlanta, Georgia, 30316. For ticket information, the website is easternatl.com.
You are listening to WRFG Atlanta. WRFG provides a voice for those who have been traditionally denied open access to the broadcast media through the involvement of a broad base of community elements to guarantee that access. In the utilization of the station's facilities and in its programs, the following communities will receive first priority: those who continue to be denied free and open access to the broadcast media, and those who suffer oppression or exploitation based upon class, race, sex, age, creed, sexual orientation, disability, or immigrant status.
Good morning, Blues! WRFG Atlanta.
Good morning, Blues. We'll brighten up your day as you put on your shoes. Yeah, yeah. You know it's got to be the way to wake up each and every day on WRFG in Atlanta. Good morning, Blues.
Good morning, Blues.
Good morning, Blues. This is Tony O'Malley on WRFG Atlanta.
Good Morning Blues, Part 2, London to Louisiana. My introduction today is nothing but a bio of the fabulous guest you and I both get to enjoy for this program, Mr. Bill Wyman. And it's a bio that is just a glimpse, a set of highlights, if you like. You're going to have to dig deeper. But he'll be with us a little later on, not much longer, probably 30 minutes or so. But just quickly think about some highlights here. 30 years as the Rolling Stones bassman. You would think that would be enough. Oh, no. He went off and was the band leader for Bill Wyman's RHYTHM Kings, who are absolutely enormous. Not so much over here, perhaps, but gosh, just look at this wonderful revolving tribe of musicians that couldn't wait to play with him with the RHYTHM Kings, who played for another 20 years. Georgie Fame, one of my heroes. Eric Clapton, Tommy Emmanuel, Paul Carrick, wonderful singer. Gary Brooker, who doesn't know him? Peter Frampton, George Harrison, Mark Knopfler, Mick Taylor, also from the Stones. Eddie Floyd, a great American singer. Odetta, another one. Nicky Hopkins on piano. Albert Lee on guitar. Andy Fairweather-Low, guitar and vocals. Mr. Chris Stainton on keyboards, along with Max Middleton doing the same. Ringo on drums. Who else? Geraint Watkins, superb keyboard player. Your own Gary U.S. Bonds. The list is staggering. You thought Ringo's all-star band was big. This was bigger. And on top of all that, I think around 7 albums. They stopped touring 7 or 8 years ago, and the last album release was 2018. On top of all this, 11 books. Some of them pretty famous. So we're going to go on a blues odyssey of our own by joining with someone who has just an amazing depth of memory on everything that happened. That was his job in the Stones, and everything else he does was to be the gatekeeper, the bookkeeper, the man with all the records. And he has this massive room, I guess in the basement somewhere, with all the pieces from the tours and everything. Just an incredible array of stuff. Anyway, he's going to be talking to you about not the absolute latest book, which is only just out, but one that was out a few months ago, all about Chelsea and the way it is so exclusive to that portion of London. It's a fabulous place, full of stars, including him. And that's where the Stones all lived together back, in the 60s and where it all began. So he'll be talking about that. He'll be talking about his new solo release, which is finished and due out, and all kinds of interesting bits and pieces. So hang on for the amazing Mr. Bill Wyman coming up. Before I get into new releases, I do have some sad news. I found out yesterday afternoon Bobby Tench died. Wonderful singer. And mostly you will remember him from the Jeff Beck group. 2 great albums there, along with a lot of other things. But I think in America, that's what you'll remember him by. So I have to honor him. He was 79, been ill for a little while. If you go to my YouTube channel, UK Bob 007, I couldn't go to sleep last night without making a tribute to him. It's not very long, 13, 14 minutes, but it's 9 passages of his best vocals from those 2 albums weaved together that you might enjoy. But we're going to play a song for him. The picture in the video is me and he 5 years ago, about just hanging out, having a glass of wine, which in my case was Pepsi, but I was hoping to talk to him more about the solo album he'd been working on and was excited about before he got sick. Isn't that always the way?
Throw my ticket out the window. Throw my suitcase out there too. Throw my troubles out the door. I don't need them anymore. Tonight I'll be staying here with you, girl. I should have left this town this morning, but it was more than I could do. Yes, it was. Your love comes on so strong. I knew it won't be long. Tonight I'll be staying here with you, girl. Is there any wonder the love that a stranger might receive? You cast your spell and I went under. I find it so difficult to leave. I can hear that whistle. Oh, yeah, yeah. See the station master too. You see the poor boy on the street. I let him have my seat there. Tonight I'll be staying here with you, girl. be staying here with you tonight. I'll be staying here with you tonight, tonight, nah, 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 nah. I'll be staying here with you. Oh, tonight I'll be staying here with you.
Right then, here's a few new releases, and we might as well start in London with these guys, who I'm going to see again in a few weeks, but they're actually coming to America.
Access to emergency contraception is more critical now than ever, as abortion and reproductive rights are threatened across the entire Southeast. Plan B can prevent unintended pregnancy up to 72 hours after sex, but barriers like cost limit its use. That's why ARC Southeast created Plan B Southeast, a network of community outposts providing emergency contraception across the Southeast region. We partner with trusted local businesses and organizations to distribute Plan B to their neighbors, expanding access in areas that need it most. As an outpost, you'll empower people to obtain care quickly with no judgment or shaming by simply making Plan B kits that we provide available at normal business hours. Learn about our movement as abortion access is shrinking. Help uplift reproductive justice in your community. ARC Southeast provides the Plan B kits, and your business or organization becomes a pillar of care and compassion. The website is arcsoutheast.org for more information. That's arc-southeast.org. Together, we can make reproductive justice a reality across the South.
This has been another public service announcement from your station for progressive information and handpicked quality music, WRFG 89.3 FM and WRFG.org.
She works in a diner. She'll serve you breakfast any way you want. She got a to get a little taste of her affection. She captivates you with a wink and a smile. Oh, M.L.O. Oh, when I'm close to you. Real close when she takes my order. She puts the sugar in my coffee cup. It's like she knows exactly what I'm craving. A little hot sauce on my sunny side up. When I'm close to you.
the superb Omar Coleman from Chicago. And that was Eddie Roberts on guitar and Benny Bloom on trumpets. And Color Red is the label in Colorado for some funky bluesy stuff. Before that, Albert Cummings up in Ottawa, Canada. Great album. I think it's just called Strong, a track called Emmy Lou. And there's some really good stuff on there. There's some tremendous artists in Canada we don't get to hear anywhere near as much because it's just a problem for them to travel across and an expense and everything. But anyway, we began with the CINELLI brothers doing A Dozen Roses. And they will be in the Northeast. I don't know how far they're coming down. The album is called Almost Exactly. I've seen them twice in London. I'll see them when I'm over there. This is like their fourth album. Super interesting, London-based Italian band. I've got one more track to play before we get Bill Wyman on, and it's kind of relevant. This guy had 60s hits and was one of my pop heroes, and amazingly, he's still rocking. I tracked him down once in New Mexico a few years back, but he's trimmed down, lost weight, still got a stack of hair, and he's got a brand new single I thought would be worth sharing. And as an octogenarian, Bill will be inspired and can relate because he's still cranking out great music too. So that would be a great lead-in, after which you will hear about how it all began.
Some very special times. Famous lads from Liverpool, we're all friends of mine. Are you with me? Just like the good old days. Did you scream and shout while the music played?
This is Dana Gillespie from London, England, to tell you about the second best way to wake up. Just tune in to UK Bob and his Good Morning Blues show and feel good for 4 hours on WRFG Atlanta.
the superb Mr. Billy J. KRAMER. Are you with me? 80 years old, rocking, still got more hair than me, jealous. But I thought as an octogenarian, we could lead into Bill, who will appreciate, who's equally putting out a stack of great music. And that's where we're going right now. Just a quick intro as to how it all began. I'm going to step out of the way. And the music in between the segments are all the different people in the RHYTHM Kings, like Andy Fairweather-Low, Adrian Byron Burns, who I'm waving to in Spain, Georgie Fame, Beverly Skeet, and it will link all the pieces together. And Bill wrote every one of them.
I had a band in South London, and my drummer, Tony Chapman, played with the beginnings of the Stones. He came to me and said, the bass player's left. Do you want to come up and have a try? Looking in my diary, on Friday the 7th of December 1962, I went up to the Wetherby Arms pub in World's End, Chelsea, entered through the side door, met Ian Stewart, who was very nice and friendly. He introduced me to Mick there, who was also quite friendly actually. I was then introduced to Brian and Keith, who were up at the bar, and they were very cool and distant and showed me little interest. We got my equipment out and set it up, and everybody was interested all of a sudden because I had a huge bass amp which I'd made. I had an AC30 Vox amp and another smaller amp, a Watkins Westminster. I said, you can use them, this is mine. They had all horrible amps, so they were very happy about that. I bought a round of drinks for everyone and offered them cigarettes, and of course they were jumped upon immediately because they all smoked but they couldn't afford them. And then Mick turned around and asked me if I knew any black blues artists. The only names I knew that were similar to blues artists were Chuck Berry and Fats Domino. So he asked me who else I knew, and I talked about the Coasters, Jerry Lee Lewis, Eddie Cochran, Johnny Burnett, Lloyd Price, Sam Cooke, people like that. And I got a very strong look of distaste from everyone. They were a bit too rock and roll for them, I think, at the time, but in later years, of course, they all got to love those guys. We rehearsed some slow Jimmy Reed songs and pretty authentic blues, but they still kind of ignored me and made it clear to me that I wasn't really the right kind of person. I thought the general opinion of the boys was really good amps, bass playing's nothing special, but we'll keep him so we can use the amps. But they were con artists at the time, and they took ages to be friendly with people. They asked me to come to the next rehearsal, and I agreed. And we returned to their flat, and I left all my equipment there, which was a dodgy thing because that flat was disgusting. I mean, it was filthy. The chairs had 3 legs for people they didn't like, you know. Anyway, Tony and I left and drove back to South London later that evening, and I probably got to bed about 2 in the morning like I usually do.
Well, it's a very special edition of Good Morning Blues here in Hotlanta, Georgia, because I'm delighted to introduce a fabulous guest this week to entertain you in many things. Mr. Bill Wyman is on the phone to talk about his book, Chelsea. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. How are you over there?
I'm a lot sunnier because I chose to come here all those years ago, so I know the difference in the weather. That's the number one thing.
Okay.
I must say that of all the swanky neighbourhood names I grew up with, like Knightsbridge and Mayfair and Belgravia, Chelsea for me was always extra. I mean, it was more than just a ritzy name. It had this cool, vibrant, groovy and musical aura about it, full of fashion and pop stars and art. And that's when I saw this book, I said, oh my gosh, this is going to be something I'll disappear into. And now you've lived there in total over, 40, 42 years, but for the last 30, your current home was originally from like 1714, is that right?
1714, yeah. Yeah, the original house. Yeah, we've still got the basements in there with the old kitchens and things, all tiled, which we're not allowed to touch because it's, you know, it's a special, you know, they make you preserve those kind of things in England.
So what's that mean, a listed building?
Yeah, yes, that part of the building is listed, yeah. The rest of the building is not because a lot of it's been rebuilt.
Yeah. But I think the basements are more interesting. I think the history is in the walls.
Oh, you like digging down in the depths, do you?
Yes, oh yes. many of Bassman has provided a lot of interest. One of those is actually going to come up. I thought of something earlier this morning that I was going to mention that's sort of relevant to Chelsea. But anyway, this book, what a phenomenal encyclopedia. It's a staggering undertaking. I think you said it took you 4 years, and if you took around 2,000 pictures and used 300 of them in the book, 420-something door knockers. Those things always fascinated me. I don't know why. I think I found some of them rude, which I would giggle at as a child, toilet humor. Plus, you know, we used to grow up playing Knockout Ginger, where you'd take a cotton reel and creep down the path and tie it and then go back down and hide somewhere. Just to amuse yourself, but it really would annoy the neighbours. But that's what you do.
We used to do it as children. We used to do it as children, doing it across the streets. You go from one door knocker to another door knocker. You pull one back and then tie the string right the other end, and then you'd knock the one and then make the other one knock. And as they open the doors, it would make
look
them
at each other
more.
Well, you must
Children's
have been
games,
quicker.
you know.
Yeah, you must have been quicker than me then. I don't know I could get back to the other door that quick to tie the other end on, but that's pretty funny. You're two people standing looking at each other going, "Oi, what do you want?" I'll tell you the other thing. I was always fascinated. I used to do brass rubbings in the street with charcoal as a kid, and I think it was started by some school trip we were on. I didn't know that those were coal cellars. I didn't know what they were. I never asked.
Yeah, they're the covers, the stone covers of coal holes, but they're on the pavement, and underneath the walking pavement are cellars where they had the coal. You know, each house had that underneath.
Yeah.
In fact, I have it here on this one, and so they all had these which people used to call manhole covers, didn't they? But they were for pouring the coal down into the basement cellars. And they're all highly decorated. And we walk all over them, all the way, every street in Chelsea have got them. And I thought I'd start to take pictures of them because some of them are quite decorative and pretty. And they're another thing that people have enjoyed commenting on since they've bought the book, you know.
Well, that's what brought this up to me. I didn't realise that I was ignorant as to what they actually were. I didn't care. I wasn't thinking that way. And then also I noticed, I love walking around the streets of London. I don't get so much time in Chelsea, but there are things that are in the floor, like certain clocks to see the time, and just unusual things. People don't look down.
Well, they look down more than they do look up, actually. I know.
Well, that's because they've got their bloody phones in their hand, yeah.
Well, that as well, but older people sort of walk along with their heads down because they worry about balance or whatever, and the pavements are uneven sometimes. But they don't look up and see all the wonderful buildings and the ancient plaques, you know, on the walls and all the things that I photographed. And
my daughters ask me questions when I'm on a trip, and they say, "Well, what are you doing today?" I said, "Well, I've got some music tonight. I'm usually there for a couple of gigs a night. But what about during the day, Dad?" "Well, I'm just walking the streets." And they look puzzled. And I said, "Look, I don't have to have a destination. Sometimes you walk into things that you didn't know about before, even though I grew up there. And I love to just look and absorb and look at the different things up and down the buildings and changes on the street corners. I'm quite content doing that. I don't need to have necessarily company or have a plan. Just wandering around till I get tired and need a cup of coffee. You know?
Well, that kind of thing reminds me of something which is completely off the wall, but we went to dinner in the south of France, and with my three daughters when they were quite little. They were like 10, 8 and 7 or something. And across the way was Richard Attenborough, you know, the great writer and artist and film director. And I went over and said hello, and then I invited, he said, "There, your daughters, bring them over." So I invited them over, and we had a photo, and they said, "That's Santa Claus." Now we know. Now we know where he goes in the summer. It was a funny moment.
I got caught give me time. And even though I bear no grudge, it weren't no fault of mine. I mean, I didn't do it. No, not me. I'm rolling and stumbling down. I'm rolling and stumbling down the street. I'm just looking for a woman and a place where I can rest my aching feet. I'm rolling and stumbling down. I'm rolling and stumbling down the street. Yeah. I'm just looking for a woman and a place where I can rest my aching feet. Yeah. Lord, Lord, Lord.
Let's go back to my conversation with Bill Wyman, a Rolling Stone, a Rhythm King, an author, an archaeologist, and a super interesting book.
Which reminds me to ask, I think you have 3 daughters. Do they still live in the area? Do they still feel like you do? They love the village, or have they moved away? Or
They all live quite close to Chelsea, actually. One lives in Fulham, and you know, the other 2 live a bit further out, you know, because they're in their late 20s now, mid to late 20s. So they've all got their own apartments, but they come and stay quite a lot, and we obviously see each other all the time.
do they
But,
think
you
about
know,
Chelsea the same way as you do?
They do love it, yes, because they love the shopping, they love the restaurants, the theatres,
Well,
and you know, you've got everything here. You've got the river, you've got the King's Road, and then, you know, you've got the river just a few 100 yards away. And it's beautiful walk in the river because there's all kinds of statues of people, and, you know, as I showed in the book, all famous people. And it's a wonderful, it's like a village in London. You know, London's 10, 12 million people, and that's our little village here, you know, in Chelsea, which in the 16, 17, 1800s, the royalty used to come here all the time. And because it was like a country, it was like going away for the day, you know, to the countryside. You know, so you had Henry VIII and all those people. And then, of course,
I started reading the book, I really was ignorant to the amount of amazing history that it covers. And the fact also, I didn't know that it was the only royal borough as appointed by Queen Victoria. So it's a jam-packed 250 pages, which for me would appease almost everybody you can think of. You could trickle down by subject or location, but I tell you what, the biggest thing for me is the way you broke it into itineraries, where someone can directly align their interest via the subsection of historic or literary or artistic or music and fashion. I mean, who couldn't be interested?
Yeah, there are all different walks you can do in Chelsea, yes, which we laid out.
Was there a reason? I was surprised that you had it set up where the music and fashion would be the last one.
Well, I always, when I do books, I always try to find things that have never been done before. And that's why I've photographed the door knockers and the coal hole covers and many other things. You know, it's really important to me to look at things in a different way to the way they usually are. And all my books are like that I've written.
Because this is what, number 7, and then Billy and the Wars would be number 8. Is that about right?
No, 12 and 13.
Oh my gosh. This reminds me of an old Morecambe and Wise sketch. You know, the only TV show where it was all right with 2 blokes to be sitting in bed on the show. And Eric would say to Ernie, "How many players you read today, Ern?" "Only 5, you're slipping." You know.
Well, Laurel and Hardy also slept in the same bed, don't forget.
No,
I remember it well.
I just think it's quite amazing for a Londoner like me to learn so much more about a place that I thought, I knew about. Did you ever figure out why Chelsea Bridge was opened by the Canadian Prime Minister in 1937? Was it just because he happened to be there and they needed to make him feel important, or?
I think it was, just a publicity venture, basically.
The book also answers a few questions for me. I was aware, looking for the porcelain factory, which was mid-1700s. Couldn't find any reference to it. Why? Because it was printed somewhere under the wrong address. It wasn't in Church Lane East. It was in Lawrence Street. And on reading your book, I found that out, and then I got all the details about it. So that's crazy.
Well, the Lawrence Street and Cheney Row are the two oldest streets in Chelsea. They go way back before the embankment was built or anything. And so there's more history in those two streets than any other streets in Chelsea, apart from the King's Road, of course.
A place I go to a lot when I'm home, which is about 3 times a year, is the 606 Club, which I know that you know, on Watts Road. But of course, that was only from 1988. I think it was on the King's Road, hence the 606, up until from 1969. But reading the book about Watts Road area, amazed to find it had all these gardens and ballooning and things that you wouldn't imagine today. And I was wondering...
there was a whole area there where they had balloon events. They had a lady cross the River Thames on a tightrope. They had all kinds of amazing things going on there, and all the artists, poets, writers, and royalty used to go there because it was like a very special sort of place to go. It was like, when you didn't have many things to be entertained with in those days.
What's this current status with the power station?
Being pulled down actually and changed.
Oh, so the site is cleared now?
No, it's not cleared. But
okay. Any idea what the plans are?
None whatsoever. It's quite an ugly building, isn't it? And they had to stop using it because it was just causing so much pollution and also volume. And so they closed it down years ago, and it's just been standing there doing nothing, and it's quite ugly. Although I got a few nice pictures of bits of it. But I'll be glad to see that gone, actually.
Yes.
Please join us for WRFG's Spring CD Sale on Saturday, March 16th. We have lots of lightly used CDs, including blues, R&B, jazz, rock, and so much more. Mostly priced at $3 a disc. The sale is from 2 to 5 p.m. in the Harlan Joy Community Room on the second floor of the Little 5 Points Community Center. And you may want to bring your own bag to carry your treasures home. The Little 5 Points Community Center is located at 1083 Austin Avenue Northeast, Atlanta 30307. That's the corner of Austin and Euclid Avenue in Little 5. We hope to see you at WRFG's Spring CD Sale from 2 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, March 16th. Proceeds benefit WRFG 89.3 FM, Atlanta's independent community radio station for progressive information and hand-picked quality music, is streaming around the world via the free WRFG mobile app and WRFG.org.
Let's go back to my conversation with Bill Wyman, a Rolling Stone, a Rhythm King, an author, an archaeologist, and a super interesting book.
Before I end the subject of the 606 Club, only because I think it's one of our coolest venues in Chelsea, but you know,
well,
Steve
I've
Rubio?
seen Woody there. I've seen Woody there with his band. I've seen Eric Clapton there with his band. You know, at various times. I've never played there myself. It's a bit small for
right, but you know Steve Rubio, right?
Vaguely.
Yeah. Well,
he's not a close friend.
He's an interesting guy, but here's the funny part: for a club owner for all those years, that's not his profession. He's a dentist. So, you know, I think he stumbled into it out of interest, taking up flute lessons and decided, no. Yeah, being a dentist isn't as much fun as doing this. I think I'll do this instead.
So he knows how to fill the place.
Oh yeah, many a good night. Another weird connection is a couple of years ago, I interviewed Norman Pilcher. He was one of the police detectives from 68 to 72 of the Drug Squad, right?
That's it,
And famously mentioned by the Beatles as Semolina Pilcher in I Am the Walrus, because he and John actually became friends, and John had to escape and go to Japan or somewhere, and he would send Norman crates of his favorite whiskey or something just to annoy him, to let him know he's still free. But the weird Chelsea connection is some of the stories that came about from Eric and Donovan and Dusty at places in and around Chelsea where they almost got caught, almost got nicked, places like the Pheasantry. And it always, to me, illuminated the fact that Chelsea was the heartbeat of where the action was, you know.
Well, it was in the 60s. I mean, you walked down the King's Road when I wasn't living here then, but the three of the boys were. Brian had an apartment and, a flat, quite a rough old, disgusting place, actually, where Mick and Keith joined him later. And we used to join up there to go rehearsals and all that. But then we'd go on the King's Road to do a bit of shopping, and if we could afford it, to look for clothes on stage and that, because we didn't have uniforms. And you'd bump into, you know, Michael Caine and you know, Roger Moore and all these people who were walking about just shopping or going to the restaurants. And you were in awe of them because you were too scared to go over and say hello because you were nobody, you know. But it was amazing to see all these characters and all these movie stars and sportsmen and everything in that street, including all the fashionable shops like Dandy Fashions and the Chelsea markets, you know, where you bought all these Moroccan clothes and things. I mean, it was never ending, and it was like a hurricane because everything was changing. You know, the birth pill happened, and then all the pop art started, you know, with all the art stuff. The movies started to happen in a different way. Theatre, music. It was just a complete change, and it's never been the same. You know, there's never been another period like that since.
No. I always tell people I'm so thankful I grew up when I did, because of what I experienced. My parents brought me into the world at the absolute best possible time, you know, a little behind you, but I was in when the war was over, things were picking up, and I got to be a teenager, you know, in late 60s, early 70s, and the best of times. And then, of course, I still enjoy the fact that even though I was older, when the technology came in and the internet and Wi-Fi and all the brilliant toys we have today, I've had the best of everything. So, but those times, I think, when the way you describe it is such an English thing. We give people their space. You would see Roger Moore across the street or Michael Caine sitting having a cup of coffee. You wouldn't dream of necessarily going and interrupting them unless you were really brave or knew how to be extra polite for 30 seconds. If you were in America, you would tend to get mobbed, you know? It's an English thing. We allow people to be who they are.
Yes, when in the King's Road, you did behave yourself, yes. Yeah. And the great thing was that all those great people that I did meet or did see in the street, years later, became friends. Because then, you know, we were able to sort of mix with them. So I became a great friend of Roger Moore, Michael Caine, Terry Stamp, and Twiggy, and David Bailey, and all those people, you know, because...
Who's he?
Who's David Bailey? One of the greatest music photographers.
Yeah, that was always the commercial I remember, where they would go, David Bailey, who's he?
Well, there's the other thing. You call him in David Daly.
I only ever got into trouble once in Chelsea. I was on my way to the Chicago Factory, which is a big pizza place. I guess it was in Mayfair or Grosvenor Square, somewhere like that. I had a car full of mates, and it was around probably 1973, 4. So I was speeding on Brompton Road, pull up at a traffic light, and the cop car pulls alongside me. He doesn't have his lights on. He's not doing anything, but he winds down his window and tells me to wind mine down because he knew that we weren't going anywhere. And he yelled at me, he says, "Oi, this ain't bloody Brands Hatch. It's Brompton Road. Keep your speed down." And then he took off because they have better things to do than give you a speeding ticket. And all my friends are like, how did you get away with that?
Yeah, I got away with quite a few like that when they discovered who you were, and all they wanted was an autograph then. You know, once they stopped you for speeding or whatever. And they were always very sweet. The cops are great, you know, in Chelsea particularly.
People always ask me why I collected things and why I built an archive like I did.
Bill Wyman, I play bass, guitar.
This is the Rolling Stones December Christmas time. Mick, Bill and Charlie.
This is my little capsule of my life in here. Something magical happened, something rare. It was extraordinary.
You know, it is all a bit of a haze to me. I mean, if I want to know what I did in those years, I have to ask Bill Wyman.
Who keeps the archives?
Yeah.
I started to collect the little bits and pieces as we travelled. And it just slowly escalated into this mountain.
Bill was the first guy to have a computer. He'd have his videos and they'd be all stacked up. I bet he's probably got them even now. He had movie cameras before everybody.
He just has this need to relive what he experienced and put it in some sort of order and find out who he really was and what he'd gone through.
We were dynamite, unbeatable really.
Saturday night, when you move it right, and keep on trucking. You gotta keep trucking, but don't lose the rhythm, cause you'll give this man the blues. When the music starts to swing, change your stroke and shake that thing, and keep on trucking. You gotta keep trucking, but don't lose the rhythm, cause you'll give this man the blues. You're a hot shot dancer, baby. your razor shaved dry. Keep on trucking. You gotta keep trucking. But don't you lose the rhythm, cause you'll give this man the blues. Move it forward, move it back. Shake your hips and ball the jack. Now keep on trucking. You gotta keep trucking. But don't lose the rhythm, cause you'll give this man the blues. You're a hotshot dancer, baby. Ain't no masquerade. I don't dig no halfway strutting. Come on, baby, just keep on trucking.
Let's go back to my conversation with Bill Wyman, a Rolling Stone, a rhythm king, an author, an archaeologist, and a super interesting bloke.